Hi there, everybody. Ron Shook here to explain a lab you'll be doing in biology called Beaks as Tools. So let's start out with the things that you will have at your lab station that you will need today. You will have a cup of beans. You will have a smaller cup of rice. You're going to have an adjustable wrench. You will have a pair of tweezers. You will have a container that looks like this with a removable mat in the bottom. So this will lift right out. That will come in handy during cleanup. And located somewhere near you, you may have a sieve of this sort. That also comes in handy when separating beans from rice. So, you've discussed the idea of scientific models before. You will be participating in a model. Games, simulations are types of models. So, today your role will be as a finch, which is a bird found in the Galapagos Islands on the Pacific Ocean side of South America. They're famous as one of the organisms studied closely by Charles Darwin. So, let's get into some of the basics of the lab. Your teacher will have shared with you written instructions. Those instructions can be useful if you find that's an easier way to do things than by following or replaying this video. You will be considered to be a finch. All finches today in the room are of the same species, but we are going to be playing the role of far ends of a spectrum in variation for their beaks. So this tool will represent something that we call a strong beak or a big strong beak. This tool will be used to represent what we call a small, precise beak. So this will be representing the environment where different types of food can be found, and the beans and rice will be the preferred food sources for these finches. So follow directions carefully. The first direction will say something about 2/3 of a cup of beans. Consider this whole thing to be a cup. So you'll leave a few beans in here. These need to be close but not exact. And I'm just going to pour these beans. I'm keeping a few in here. And what I'll do is make sure that I can spread these beans across that playing surface. So maybe just taking another second or two to spread these out. Then your rice is measured in tablespoons and half tablespoons. Today we will consider a heaping one of these plastic spoons to be 1, and we will consider a level one of these spoons to be half a tablespoon. So in our first situation called the Land of Plenty, it calls for us to have 3 tablespoons. So I'm going to sprinkle those across the playing surface, spreading them out over that surface as best I can. In your groups, you can split up jobs. Some people can have the beaks and be the finches. We will need people to count, and we will also need someone to time things. So, when it comes a time to begin a session, what you will do is begin feeding, and the person with the big, strong beak will attempt to get either type of food. The rule for beans, though, there is the bean rule. Just grabbing a bean does not count as eating the bean. The bean needs to be crushed. And if you can crush in this extra container representing the stomach, great. And you need to count the beans as you crush them because, as you see, it's difficult to tell what one bean is. Again, if you can grab some rice with that, you count them. What you'll want to do is be getting pieces of rice into the other small cup representing a stomach, and those can always be counted later. There's no crushing rule for the rice, and they're pretty easy to count, so you don't necessarily have to count during a session. Once a session is done, what you can do is take this mat in the bottom while holding it inside the container and just kind of pour off all the items into the container, including the rice. And then that is where a sieve comes in handy, and work over a table and pour the contents into the sieve. This is actually a fun part of the lab, I think, because then you simply take your sieve and gently shake. Rice will come through, beans should not. Your beans then can be returned to the bean container, and the rice can be swept up into your hand and can be returned to a rice container. Then you just need to put your mat back on the playing surface. We will do 2 rounds for each type of environment: Land of Plenty, Drought 1, and Drought 2. When you are completely done, what you will want to do is get all items back in cups and tools reassembled as you found them at the beginning of lab. So beaks back inside the container should be clean. And then around the room there will be a dustpan and brushes, and they can be used to clean tabletops and around the floor for items that got there. So do a good job of cleanup, do a smart, precise job of counting, because that matters in science, and be very good to your teacher and to your classmates, and I hope you have some fun with this lab. Thank you.